All right, I'm on a snow day. No students here. I'm in my flannel shirt. So I'm going to talk to you about a question that I've had a couple of students ask me about, and I appreciate that. Understanding property tax. Okay, so on pace number 8, page 5, it talks about property tax. And if your parents are homeowners, they definitely are familiar with property tax and possibly even the rates, how they calculate that. I'm going to do another video after this for the next page where it's more like story problems and you have to figure out the tax rate and all that sort of thing. In the PACE, in the previous pages leading up to page 5, hopefully you understood that all right. How they calculate or how they come up with the tax rate is for a given, let's say, city. They'll take all of the expenses that they have in their budget for the new year. They take the value of all the properties. Now, not the market value, not what Zillow says the property is worth, but what the tax assessor has said the property is worth, which is less. It's a percentage of the market value. And so they take the total expenses, the total divided by the total assessed value, and that will come up with a rate, a percent. And then they'll charge every property owner the value, the assessed value of the property, times that rate, and when they collect all of that money, it will equal their expenses. Okay, that's the idea behind it. So in the previous section, you just took some big numbers like, a million something for the property, for the budget, divide by the assessed value, and you come up with a rate. Let's talk about the rates. They can be expressed 3 different ways. Now, you're used to seeing a percentage rate, and that makes sense, okay? Let's say you buy something at the store and you pay a sales tax. It's probably 3%, 4%. Here in Pennsylvania, it's 6%. All right, so 6% sales tax. That's similar, but they don't do it. They don't express it as a percent, okay? I think the reason is they're trying to confuse people. That's my personal opinion. And the mills is the most confusing. So we'll get to that one in a second. So one way they express it is how many dollars per $100 of assessed value. Another way is dollars per $1,000 of assessed value. And then the third way is mills per dollar. Okay? This is the most confusing, which is why I think they use it the most. It's probably even confusing for your parents. If you're having your parents try to help you with this PACE, they're probably the most confused trying to explain what the mills are. One way I can explain this to you is when you see gas prices on the pump, they'll usually say something like, right now I just bought gas for $3.36 per gallon, but actually it was $3.36.9, okay? 9/10 of a cent. Well, that 9/10 of a cent means 9/10 mils, 9 mils. It's the 1,000th place value. So in money, we're used to tenths and hundredths, and we don't usually see a price in the 1,000th place. But that 1,000th place, technically, instead of calling it cents, we would call it mils. Okay? I don't know if that helps at all. So let's take, in all of these examples of the way they were expressed, if we simplified it, we would have the same as 5%. 5 over 100, 0.05. 50 over 1,000, if you simplified that with your calculator, you would get 0.05. And with mils, we moved the decimal not 2 places, but 3 decimal places, and bingo, we have 0.05. All right? So in the PACE, when they talk about calculating, and these are 3 actual problems that you have on page 5, so let's talk about them, all right? The PACE says you could solve it by taking the assessed value of the home, divide by 100 to figure out how many hundreds do I have. So this divided by 100 would be 496 hundreds, and then I could take that times the $4.26, and you'll have the answer. Okay? This is a price per thousand, so if I divided this by 1,000, I would have 124.5 thousands times the 63.5. Now if I'm going to do mils, I have to move the decimal 3 decimal places, so 0.0226. Okay, notice I moved it 1, 2, 3 decimal places, and then I take that times the value of the property, and you'll get the answer. But let me show you another method, okay? If I realize 4.26 per 100, I could just take 4.26 divided by 100, and I'm going to get 0.0426. That's the decimal, just like we have up here. Instead of 0.05, I have 0.0426. And then per thousand, I'm going to move the decimal 3 times, so 0.0635. 1, 2, 3 places, okay? And then we already mentioned this one, 0.0226. And praise the Lord for calculators these days, right? So pop out your calculator, you just multiply the decimal times the full value of the property. Personally, I think that's easier. If you want to divide by 100 or divide by 1,000, you can do that, and then you just have to take that answer times that amount. The confusing one is the mils. Okay, so just remember, mils, 3 decimal places. It'd be like, yeah, never mind. I'm going to come back. The next section has some story problems, and I'm going to do an illustration using my personal property taxes. And then we're going to do one of the problems that is on that page and walk you through those steps. All right, see you in a little bit.